Hope everybody is doing well. We've got a special edition of the online dinner party. And of course, we're going to have a amazing guest, and actually, we may have two amazing guests that will be joining us and all along those lines. But it is going to be some interesting conversation. Like I said, I hope that everybody is doing well and is definitely enjoying this refreshing weather. At least that's what we're having here in North Carolina after the rain came through, and it definitely cooled it down. But it's just a temporary reprieve because we do know that the heat will be coming back and all along those lines. We were fortunate that we didn't get hit severely by the tropical storm. Definitely got some rain on yesterday, but it wasn't the torrential downpour that some people feared, at least here in the central part of North Carolina. And all along those lines, our hearts do go out to those in Florida because we do know that they were impacted and a number of other communities were impacted as well. And of course, we are still in the middle of hurricane season, so there's no telling else what might else be brewing in the ocean that might be coming our way and all along those lines. Because I know that in about 2 weeks we're going to have Centerfest because that is our street festival here in Durham, North Carolina. And I remember a couple of years it was impacted by the storms. So it's been impacted by the storms and, of course, impacted by man made storms as well. Because I do remember many years ago when 9/11 happened that was impacted as well. So definitely these festivals can be impacted by a number of things, but oftentimes it is the weather that gets in the way if you're doing events and particularly outside events. And as an event planner, I definitely know that that's something you just got to be prepared for, have contingency plans, and all along those lines. And I've got an amazing guest that'll be talking about some of the things that they've got going on. And when I think of Kansas, which is where I know that they are based in, I oftentimes think about the weather as well there because definitely we all know the story of Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz and all along those lines. So while we might be getting the hurricanes, they get those lovely things called tornadoes and all in that space. So definitely that is something that is oftentimes on people's mind when they run into folks from that part of the area. And of course, being just literally around the corner from Duke University, and they're having a arch rival that is UNC, and having friends that are involved in both of those universities. We know that Kansas has got a major basketball presence as well. As a matter of fact, the former coach of the team over there at UNC was from and had some time at the University of Kansas as well. So I don't know if Miss Scales is a basketball fan or if her folks are into basketball as well. But we're going to find out as we learn more about her and her sons and what they've been going through and all in that space. So glad to have you, Miss Scales. And like I said, a lot of times when you think about Kansas, the first thing that comes to a lot of people's minds is those lovely tornadoes and the fact that Dorothy got swept off into the Oz land and all in that space and all in that kind of way. So definitely a lot of times folks are going in that kind of thought pattern and going like, wait a minute, there's some very bad weather in that part of the country as well. And I've actually got a dear friend that lives in Kansas, and she does one of our shows here on the network, Stephanie Hockenhall, and she does a show around bullying. So her show is all around bullying. She was bullied as a youngster and her and as an adult as well, and definitely in relationships and in other situations. I think even some work situations, and her son has dealt with bullying as well. So as far as they're concerned, that's one of those other pandemics that doesn't oftentimes get talked about because there are a number of people that are bullied. So they put out this show called Where's the Love, which is definitely talking about the aspect of bullying, whether in the workplace or in the relationship space or even in the family space as well. So yes, if I remember correctly, she is based there in Kansas. I want to say in Topeka and all along those lines. So definitely glad to have you here. If you want to share with us a little bit of your thoughts as to how the weather is doing there. Like I said, we're actually enjoying some cool weather in these next couple of days and all along the lines.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark, for having me. I'm so glad to be here. And we are actually having nice weather now. The past 2 weeks have been really hot. We got to like 107 degrees. It was unbearable. My kids, they started school a few weeks back and they had to have recess inside. So they were stir crazy. But yes, we had a little bit of rain last weekend. And so that helps cool it down. But I was the same way when I first moved to Kansas. I'm from Topeka, Kansas now. But when we first moved over here, I was like, what? there's tornadoes and stuff, but we've been here for almost 9 years in October, and we have not dealt with any tornadoes. So we're blessed and we're grateful for that. Hopefully that doesn't change, knock on wood. But yeah, we're doing great. And I'm not actually a basketball fan. My husband is. We watch basketball together sometimes, but I do know about Kansas University and their basketball team. So
Yeah, definitely. And that's what I was thinking about and everything. Was it the fact that he was a pilot that got you to go to Kansas and everything? Because I do know that you are a Air Force pilot wife, and like you said, definitely the mother of those two lovely kids, and all along those lines. But was it the uh, military that brought you there to Kansas, and where were you at before you were in Kansas? And have it been a lot of the travel around? Because I do know that another friend of mine, and actually his show will be a rerun today, but next week he'll be doing his regular show on Thursday afternoons and all along those lines. But Billy Graham, not the famous evangelist, but
yeah.
our Billy Graham and everything, is over there in Texas, and definitely there in Texas as a business coach and a military person. He did a lot of traveling around. He's definitely one of those folks that loves to travel around. He's even moved his family to different parts of the world where they have sometimes packed up and lived there for a number of years. I think he just recently came back from doing that in one of the Asian countries and all along those lines. So I just wondering, was that what drew you to Kansas? Was the connection to your husband and his Air Force career?
Yes, yes. So he once we got married, he went to pilot school, and then we got located to Topeka, Kansas. So military did send us over here. So we don't have any family, and we had to make all our friends. It was a hard transition, especially for me, because I was so used to being with my family, and I come from a big family. So it was definitely hard. But now that we have our own kids and they're making friends, so we have to make more friends, and it's been really nice. I'm originally from Georgia, and my husband's from Alabama. So we're both Southern people.
Yeah, definitely Southern people in that space. I know that there had been a conversation sometime back, and I definitely get to the conversation around what you've been going through with your children and all along those lines. But I do know that there was a time that there was some concerns that there weren't enough pilots, particularly minority pilots or just pilots in general. So is that a conversation that you've had with your husband? Because I do know that there was, even today, some people that are feeling that we don't have enough people that are trained as pilots. And I know that even here in Durham, North Carolina, I work at a cultural arts center when I'm not doing this pod TV stuff. And there was a time for a number of years that we had a gentleman that was actually training folks in his program, Aerolina, about how to get a pilot's license and a number of other things. And he was definitely targeting various people of various communities to see this as an opportunity for a career. So I just wondered if that's something that you had been talking to your husband about, and if that's something that you and he are seeing a concern about.
It's something that we've definitely talked about. I think that for my husband and on the base that he's at right now, there's not a lot of minority, especially African American. There's not a lot. So it is nice. And I tell him all the time that, I'm so proud of him for, just making the right decisions and, staying strong and disciplined, because he's been in for, I think, a little bit over 20 years. So yeah, he started right out of high school. And, once we started a family, he became a guard. So we don't travel. So he works here in Kansas, and he does go on missions and things like that, but we don't have to move around, which is really nice for our family.
That's very nice and everything. And it
Yeah.
sounds like you've dedicated most of your life to being a mother and, of course, a great wife and all along those lines. But I was wondering what other kind of careers were you involved in, or whether you were doing any other work, or is it just basically being a mom? Because a mom is very much of a necessary job. And sometimes that's more of a job than some of the corporate jobs are. And it's, sometimes the only a person can only handle that one job all along those lines.
Yes, I definitely want to give my hands out to all the full-time working moms out there because I don't know how you do both. It's really hard just to, stay at home and focus on the kids, but going out to work and having to think of like two big things is incredible. But once we got married, we decided that I would be the homemaker and stay home, especially because my husband travels, I'm the consistent one, and so the kids, I drop them off at school, I pick them up. If they're sick, I'm home, like I'm always there. And I love being a mom. I really do. So that's the decision that we made, and it really is hard. Um, because sometimes I'm like, oh, I would like to work or do something. So that's why I decided to do things where I could work from home and still be available for my kids.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, speaking of being available for your kids, and I can only imagine what it would be like. I have not been fortunate, and I am 61, even though I've dated women with kids to have any kids of my own. But my younger brother has two kids, so I have my two nephews that I see on a semi-regular basis and all along those lines. But I was just wondering, I can only imagine if I got a call that one of my nephews was sick with any kind of disease, whether it was cancer or whether it was any sort of life-threatening disease that was out there, and you got that call. And I don't know how you found out about your son having cancer, but how did that come about, and how were you even able to cope with it? Because like I said, I can only imagine, and there's not even the direct bloodline of a father or a mother, but you're still part of your bloodline, even if you're a uncle or a cousin. But definitely, I was just wondering how you were able to cope with that, because I know it would be very hard for me if I got that notice, even about my nephews or my cousins or a number of other folks, if they were to be sick like that and to have that kind of diagnosis. And what kind of cancer diagnosis was it?
Yes, it definitely was shocking and hard. And he was only 4 months at the time. And I was playing with him. He was on my lap and I was tickling him and he like squirmed, and he was giggling. But when he moved a certain way, I saw that lump on his belly. And for a moment, I was just like, how did I miss this? And like he's a baby. I change his diaper every day, I change his clothes. And so it's just something that like popped up. And I told my husband, I was like, did you see this? Like, what do you think it is? And one thing about me is like, once I see something, I'm like, we're going to the doctor. We're going to the doctor. And so we got him to the doctor the next day. And I thought that it was constipation, you know. Um, but after the doctor looked at him and she went and got another doctor to evaluate him, I was like starting to get concerned. Like, why do we need another doctor to look at him? And so after that, they told us that he did have a mass and they couldn't really tell us more. They said that they called the hospital. They got the PICU, the Pediatric Intensive Care Unit. Um, they have a room for us and we need to go get more tests to figure out what's going on. And you could just see in their faces like they felt so bad, like, like you have to go to the hospital now. And we had plans for that day to like go to the park and go out to eat and all those things. But we ended up being in the hospital for like 2 or 3 days, getting tests done, CAT scan, blood work. And we also had a 3-year-old toddler, trying to keep him entertained while we're like so scared and so sad. It was really like an out of body experience. Like I was there, but it's like I wasn't there. I never thought that would happen to me. And I remember after getting all the blood work done, they said that he also got an ultrasound and they said that his tumor, which was a kidney tumor, was so big that it covered the kidney. They couldn't see the left kidney. And I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And my husband and I were sitting in the room. We were waiting for the next steps. And this lady walks in and she's smiling and she's so nice. And she came in with a nurse and they asked if the nurse could take my oldest son to go play in the playroom. And the first thing I did was look at her badge. And I remember to this day, it said oncology, pediatric oncologist on it. And my heart stopped because that is just not one word. You know, cancer, oncology, you don't want to hear that. You don't want to see it, you know, with your kids. Like, it was just awful. And
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it would be definitely heartbreaking and all along those lines. And it sounds like in that process and going through that and everything. And by the way, how is the son doing now? How is he doing with his treatments and how are things going? Are things in remission and under control, or is it a continual thing that he'll have to live with for the duration of his life?
So he is doing amazing now. He's 5 years old and he just started kindergarten. So when they went in and removed the tumor, which was the size of a cantaloupe in a baby, which blows my mind, but they removed the left kidney as well. So he only has one kidney. So every 6 months, he has his oncology checkup, so ultrasound, x-rays, all that stuff. So he definitely has anxiety with going to the doctor, having to get checked. He doesn't like to be held down. So I really feel like there's still a trauma from even when he was a baby that he still remembers. But he's doing amazing. He's doing great. And I think after this year, we're going to go to every year getting checked. And then he'll get his kidneys checked every year as well. So, but we couldn't ask for more. We're so grateful for that.
It sounds like definitely something you should be grateful for and all along those lines. Now, it sounds like during part of that time, you were also discovering a little bit about yourself and your own kind of personalities and things along that line. So I'm thinking that that's when you first learned about the Enneagram and all along those lines. And like I said, I do have a friend that has done research about a number of things, including Panda and Pans, which I mentioned to you, which you weren't as familiar with, and all along those lines. So I'll bring Kelly into the conversation as well. But if you just tell us how you learned about Enneagrams, because I know part of that is the personality test and all along those lines, and it probably even helped you cope with what you were coping with and all in that space. So if you'll just share how you discovered that and what kind of impact it had on your own life. And like I said, Kelly may have some questions as well and all in that space. But definitely, if you could just share about the experience that you had with the Enneagram.
Yes, definitely. I was going through a very difficult time just understanding myself. I never had this kind of trauma or this kind of like intense situation in my life. And so I was really like, what do I do? You know? And so I started thinking to myself, like, I'm so angry inside. I'm so sad. I have all these emotions, but I don't know how to express them. I don't know how to tell people that I'm angry. And I just tell everyone that I'm fine to keep the peace, you know? And so I was looking through Instagram one day and I saw the Enneagram. And I've taken a personality test before, but I was like, this one looks different. Let me try it. And I got the result that I'm a type 9, which is the peacemaker. And I started reading about it and I started to cry. I started to cry because I felt so seen and I felt so like understood. Like every decision that I make is because I don't want confrontation. I don't want drama. And I don't speak up because I think that I might make someone upset or I think that what I'm saying is not important. So I just hold myself back. And at that time, as both my boys' mom. Like I wanted to be there for them, fighting for them, speaking up. And I knew that I had to start making some changes. And so I got really into the Enneagram, learning all about it. And I had my husband take the test too, because when you have two parents or anybody really going through something traumatic, we grieve differently. And so for me, I just wanted to do research and I wanted to learn more about the diagnosis, the chemotherapy, this and that. And my husband didn't really want to talk about it much. He wanted to just go for a run. And that's how he got his frustrations out, I guess. But I was like, why doesn't he want to talk about it? Why can't we research it together? And so I started learning about his type and I started understanding where his thought process was, how he takes more time to process things and he doesn't like to let things fester in his brain. Like he knows the doctor's taking care of it. So he's doing what he has to do, like going to work, providing for his family. So it just made more sense. So we were able to be compassionate towards each other. So I just want to share that with people. Like the Enneagram really can help.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, what kind of personality type did he have? You said you're the peacemaker, and I know that I can sometimes have some of those qualities as well. But I was just wondering what type of personality did he come up in that number system and all along those lines, if you remember, and have it helped you in your own relationship? Because I know a lot of times we're trying to figure out how to do that work-life balance and all in that space. So I imagine that you are, even though you're a mom and not a working mom, but a mom that is a at-home mom and have your at-home businesses and all along those lines, you are probably still having to have various connections with people, whether that's the store owners in your town of Kansas or whether that's the school. You just mentioned that your kids are in school, so with the teachers and a number of other types. And I'm thinking that sometimes knowing those personality types can help, because one of the things I'll just tell you really quickly about Kelly is that she has an amazing book and she can tell you more about it. But part of that book is dealing with some of those personality types. So she does talk about the Enneagram, she does talk about the Myers-Briggs test and a number of other things. And even part of the book deals with the different types of personalities: the introvert, the ambivert, the omnivert, and the extrovert. And I think I said all four of the main types, if I'm remembering correctly, and all along those lines. But I was just wondering, what type did he come out to be, and has it helped in your relationship with both him, and did the kids take the test, and did it help out in your relationship with them as well? Even though I'm thinking that the age that they are is probably too young for them to take the test at this point, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, those are good questions. My husband is a type 1. So he is a perfectionist and he's overly critical of himself. And so that is something that has helped me, because if he makes a mistake, instead of me going like, oh man, you made this mistake, I can't believe it, I'm going to be like, it's okay. It's okay, because I already know that he's being overly critical to himself already. He doesn't need me to add to the fire. Like, he wants to be good. He wants to be right. And so that's just helped our relationship a lot, because things that I used to see as like really annoying before are not, because I understand where he's coming from. And with my kids, I think they're still too young. They're still developing. And I know, as they become teenagers and stuff, personalities shift and change. And so later on, definitely, I think it's something that like every teenager going to college should learn about, just so you can like understand yourself and know yourself. And when you know that other people think differently than you and you're self-aware, you're able to be more compassionate with people, even if it depends on, working or, dealing with your kids' teachers at school. You'll be able to understand that not everyone is like you. Not everyone thinks like you. And so you can come in the conversation with compassion and empathy.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Do you think that these schools are doing enough. And like I said, I know you have young kids, so they're just now the oldest getting into school. I'm imagining like kindergarten or something along those lines, or maybe preschool. But as one that maybe even has friends that have older kids, do you think that this is something that we are having our teachers have a greater understanding of the need to understand the different personality types, and maybe even cater the curriculums and the courses and the teaching to the different types of personalities? Because not everybody in a 30-member class is going to have the same personality. So I'm wondering if you feel that the school system is doing enough in that lane.
Yeah, I definitely think that too, because everybody is different. And I think that the school system is so, based on scores and testing, and not everybody is good at test taking. Not everybody can sit still. Not everyone can focus. I know that there are schools that have paras and IEPs. So there is some help coming in for those kids that need extra, you know, assistance. Um, but at my school with my kids so far, it's been really nice. Like if my kid has an issue or he's nervous or something, I talk to their teacher, and their teacher does work it out with him and me to help him. So he was for his birthday, they make the kids go in front of the assembly so the assembly can sing happy birthday to him at the school. And he was nervous. He was nervous. And so I was like, that's totally understandable. Like I get it. But at this school, they really want you to build on those social skills and things like that. And so I told the teacher that he was nervous, and she was like, "What can I do to help? Can I go up there with you?" And he was like, "No, I don't want you to go up there." And so she said she would get into contact with the teacher that would be asking the questions, like, how old are you and things like that. Figure out exactly what the questions were going to be. She emailed me. I got the questions and I was able to practice at home with him. And so I just felt like, wow, that was an extra step that she didn't have to take. She did. And I was able to practice with him, and he did so well. And he was more prepared and not as scared. So, and I just want him to know that even though you're scared, you can still do hard things.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, you had the pleasure of doing a TEDx talk, and I like the title of the talk. And I just wondered if you could say how that came about, because I did see that it is called "What If Moms in Crisis Were Kind to Themselves?" And sometimes, whether it's moms or even dads or even just people in general, we're not always kind to ourselves. So I just wondered if you could speak to what that talk was about and how you came about giving that talk, and if there are any other TEDx's in the future.
Yes. TEDx was something that I kind of always wanted to do. I didn't know what I was going to talk about, but after going through what I went through, I knew that I needed to speak to moms, because I just feel like in the world that we're living in, social media and TV and movies and all that thing, we see motherhood as this glamorous thing that we just have to do. Like, what is the nursery room going to look like, and what new crib is there to help them fall asleep, or what new this and that. And we don't focus on, like, how are we feeling right now in the pregnancy, or even if I'm not able to breastfeed, that's okay. It's okay. I don't feel bad. I don't feel guilty. I can still take care of my baby. And I just feel like moms are just so hard on themselves. And especially when we're going through a hard time. My son was going through chemo and radiation, all this stuff. I couldn't go and get my nails done. I couldn't go get a massage because I felt guilty. I felt like, why should I be able to have fun and enjoy myself when my son is suffering? And even after he was done with all of it, I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do because I still felt guilty. And so I finally was like, I'm not doing anyone any favors, like not taking care of myself, not practicing self care. I'm not being the best mom and wife that I can be. And so that talk was, being kind to yourself. Even though you're going through a hard time, like you're going to be a better mom by taking care of yourself, not the other way around, you know, feeling guilty, sitting in front of the TV and, numbing out. That is not going to make you the best mom. The best mom is going to come out taking care of yourself.
What was it like coming up? And like I said, you said that you came from the deep South and all along those lines. But I was just wondering, what was it like getting into the military life? I'm not sure that you always were intending to be the wife of a military person or all along those lines, or is it something that a lot of your family members were already involved in? Maybe you already had family members, whether that was folks that were because I know a number of women that are also in the military that were active and active participants, or was it something that caught you off guard and you were surprised by some of the things that you had to do, even in the military life as a military wife and all in that space? I was just wondering, how long did it take you to get acclimated to being in the military life?
Yeah. My parents are from Haiti. So they both came here around 1984, I believe. Um, so yeah, we don't have any military on my side of the family at all. So it was so new to me. When I started dating my husband, we met each other in college and he started telling me that he was in the military and things like that. I didn't even know what that meant. When you're saying military, sometimes people are like, oh, he's in the army. Now I know there's a difference. There's different branches and all the acronyms they have. Like I know it now, but it was kind of one of those things where I had to learn as I went along. I learned the rules. I learned, all the things. When we lived on base, I think it was around 5 o'clock, and everybody has to stop what they're doing to listen to the anthem, and I had to learn all of that. And so I think I'm easily adaptable. That's something that a type 9 is. We merge well with other types and other people. So I adapted pretty easily. And since we don't have to travel and move around as much, it's made it a little bit easier for me. The hardest part getting used to was like when I was a new mom and when my husband had to travel, like being by myself and having the responsibility of the kids. And I'm like, oh man, this is up to me now. I got to step it up, And so that I had to get used to. And I feel better about it now. So
How do you manage that work-life balance? Because I know a lot of times, even on this show and a number of other shows, it is a concern that a lot of people have is how to balance that whole thing of both the raising the family, but also being a good wife and just going into those different businesses that you're trying to do, whether they are home businesses or not. That it is still work, no matter what you looking at. It might not be corporate work, but it is still work. So how do you manage to balance that and all of the aspects of motherhood as well?
yes. So like with my Enneagram coaching business, I do my work and I try my best to do my work during the day when they're at school. So I have my blog, my website. I try to post, schedule everything out for the days of the week. And then on the weekends, I try to make sure that I'm not doing anything really. Like I'm focused on the kids. We do activities, we go out, we have fun. And then when they go to bed, because they have their bedtime at 8:30, then if I have some extra stuff to do, I'll do it then. So I just try to prioritize them first, but I still get to do things that I enjoy and that I love. But I just try to make it where when they're at school. which has helped, because during the summer they were with me every day, and I had to like put a timer, like, hey, this is the timer for 1 hour. You guys can play or watch a movie. Mommy's going to do a little work. And it's not all the time that they're cool with that, but they have to learn too that mommy does some things. And I think it's good for them to see me, like, going after my dreams and doing things. And I remember one day, my oldest son came to school, and one of his friends asked him, "What does your mom do?" And he told his friend, "My mom makes videos, or she writes about to help people take care of themselves." And he said something like that. And I was like, oh, he notices what I'm doing. Like, that made me happy. So,
That
yeah.
would definitely, yeah, that would definitely make you happy. The fact they recognize what you are doing and all along those lines. You mentioned that you're doing some coaching using the Enneagram and all along those lines. I was just wondering, is there anybody that, and you don't have to put names out there, that when you coach them, you were surprised by the results? Because I'm thinking, like you mentioned, that you are a person that is definitely trying to keep the peace, and some people will call those people pleasers and all along those lines, but definitely it's not always the case. But definitely you mentioned your husband was more of the perfectionist, and I know some folks that are in that lane as well. But I'm just wondering, with the various types, if there were any in cases or situations that you were surprised by the results after you took the test with the individuals and it wasn't what you were expecting.
Yeah. I think that only happened once. Usually I feel like I'm spot on. Um, I have a good sense about people, but um, there was someone that got a type 9, but I really, really, truly believed that they were a type 1. So the thing is, they're a peacemaker, but when I see them as always wanting to be right and always wanting to be good. But their motivations were different. For a type 1, their motivation is, I want to be seen as good and right and moral. But the person's motivation was, they don't want to fight. So that was like really hard for me to see it. But they're one wing 9. So they have attributes of both types. So it can get a little confusing, and that's why sometimes taking the test might not give you the right answer. You might have to dig deep and ask those questions, like, what really motivates you? What's your biggest fear? And yeah, that's how people usually find out their type.
Yeah. And speaking of that and everything, like I said, Kelly has definitely done a lot of work in this field and all along this line. So, Kelly, if you want to just share with Myrna a little bit about your work, and even I had told her about the pans and the pandas, and she wasn't as familiar with that. So, I'm sure she would be interested in knowing more about your own experience, even as a mom, because you are a mom yourself as well, having those kids, your daughters as well as the sons as well.
You gonna fill a bump though. Can you hold on for 2 seconds? I did, believe it or not, I'm at the car wash and I did something I wasn't supposed to do. So
No problem. So we'll wait for her to come back online and all along those lines and everything. But definitely, as she's trying to get that situated and all in that kind of space and everything. You had mentioned earlier about faith and all in that point as well. So I just wonder how important has faith been in your journey as well.
Oh yeah, faith and believing in God and believing in the hope that things are going to get better. They're not always going to stay as dark and scary, has been the biggest help for me. I started going to therapy because I needed to process things and talk it through with a therapist. And I was going to multiple ones just to try to find the right one for me. And each one that I spoke to told me that, do you believe in something? Do you believe in something greater than you? And I knew that I believed in God, but it's interesting because when you're going through traumatic things like this in your life where you have no control, you need to believe in something greater. Because, like, I just don't understand, how you'd get through it, through to the other side. That's my opinion. But it's been a huge help for me. When my son was getting his first chemo, I couldn't even be in the room because I knew that they were putting poison in his body. And so I just started crying and I left the room. And, I just prayed in my heart. I was like, give me strength. I need to be here for him. And, I was able to get back in the room. But for me, it's been a huge help.
Yeah, it sounds like it's been a very huge help. And along those lines, we'll see if Kelly's got time and everything. But Kelly, if you can just share a little bit about your own background, because like I said, you are a person that's gone through some of what she's gone through, but in a later part of life and everything. But I was just wondering if you can share a little bit about your book and what you're doing and all along those lines.
So first of all, I just want to say what you're doing with the Enneagram is amazing. So really excited about what you're doing and how you're helping people along the way, because so many people have lost their voice between the you shoulds, you ought tos, I see you doing this. And I think because there's so much banter about what they should do until they just pick something so they can stop the talk. But once again, hold on just once. So I thank you and I applaud you for what you're doing for other people, even if they forget to say thank you sometimes. So what I am a life coach. I work with several of the tests. I work with Hexaco, Big Five, Myers-Briggs. It just depends on what the person needs at that particular time. And once again, I work with individuals who are striving towards a larger goal, but they just reach an impasse. And is the impasse something that is it an environmental factor? Is it an influencing factor? Is it a mentor factor? So really just trying to dive deep into those two things. And I wrote 2 books about it. One which pertains to domestic violence, and the one which pertains to just overall self-awareness, communication, and goal setting. But the thing that I was going to say is those personality tests, have you seen people just exhale once they get the relief or once they get their scores?
Yes, I have. Even myself.
Because the big thing is, once again, people are told so many different things, and we have exposure to so many things. I'm probably a lot older than you. I was there when Noah built the ark. So when I was growing up, we basically had an auntie, an uncle, neighbors who intervened and kind of guided us along the way. Now they have the internet. They have a very, very diverse group of schoolmates. They have teachers who may not be from their neighborhood. They have, clinicians who may not know anything about them. They have police officers who may have come in from another area. So they have so many different influencers which may not be familiar with their culture. But even if they're not familiar with the culture, if they can better understand their value system, right, and how they communicate and and respond to things, it just makes it so much easier. So I've seen it just looked like weights were coming off of people, because they finally felt as though they knew who they were, and they also understood who the other persons were, so that if they're communicating, like, what is the gap in communication? So I might be conveying something to you. Oh, wait a minute, you're not getting it because you're this type of personality. So let me tweak it a little bit to add that component.
Yes. I love how you said that. That's exactly what it is. Thank you.
Yeah. Because one of the things that I've noticed is kind of it came back to what I was talking about, and definitely I've even been dealing with it when I've been helping Kelly with the Audible with her book, is that too often people don't pay attention to the styles and all along those lines. And I sometimes think that they are in a rush to make observations that may not be given enough notice to what the kids' personalities are. Because I have 2 nephews I alluded to that earlier and all along those facts. And to me, kids just in general are hyper, but I sometimes think that we are too quick to medicate them without understanding the styles of their personalities and all along those lines. So I just wondering if that's something that you have dealt with and had a fear around, Myrna, and all along those lines, because I do know that sometimes we are too quick to say that a kid is being overly active and they might just have a different personality type and not necessarily. And I'm not saying that there aren't times that medication isn't needed, but maybe they don't need to rush as quickly to the Ritalin or some of the other medications that are out there. We bother to understand the personality types.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like I have two boys and none of them, I have one that's 8 and one that's 5. None of them are going to sit on the couch for more than 5 minutes. Like they are going to be running around. They're going to be wrestling. They try their best at school, but I feel like with boys, like they're meant to be running around. They're meant to be energetic. They have a lot of energy. And so I've been reading more about like, yes, wrestling with them before bed and putting them upside down and things like to get all that energetic energy out. So we've been trying that. And also when they go to bed, I do meditation. My husband and I, whoever it's turn it is to put them to bed, we do meditation and we rub their backs. Sometimes we even do yoga nidra for kids to help lower their nervous systems. So I try natural things, lavender spray, things like that to help them relax. But we have to remember that, they're kids and they're boys and they have a lot of energy, and definitely medication at an early age. I would try natural, therapy, things like that. Maybe when they're teenagers, and if it's really affecting, their school and their relationships, then you can start thinking about medication, but not at an early age.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
One of the things I was going to say is there's a program, look into it. It's called Miller Method, Miller Method.
Okay.
Are you familiar with it?
No.
Okay.
No,
It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And so what it does is it takes that. So instead of, how they have that energy with wrestling or whatever, you can actually incorporate reading into it. You can incorporate audio stimulation into it. You can incorporate elevation into it. So it teaches you how to not only do the, please forgive me, not only do the physical activity, but also make it a tangible that they can take to school, if that makes some sense. So
yeah.
like, if they love wrestling, maybe there's a sentence or a paragraph they can write about wrestling before they do wrestling. Do you know what I mean? Look at the Miller Method. Look at the Miller Method, but it's very cross-functional, and it's an opportunity to get more people engaged in the process. With regards to medication, I was going to say, I don't know if you know this, but in the U.S., we actually have the highest rate of prescription use, and 1 in 36 kids in the U.S. are diagnosed with autism. In the world, it's 1 in 100. In other wealthy countries, it's 1 in 140. In Europe, a lot of times they will not allow kids to take SSRIs or antipsychotics until like teen years, because they realize how it impacts the developmental process between the ages of adolescence, like 10 and 21, 22. You have the highest amount of gray matter mass on your brain. So you're able to challenge yourself cognitively. You're able to learn quickly. You have that quick term response. Well, if you start to put the SSRIs and the antipsychotics in these individuals, what happens is you take away the innovativeness and the geniusness, or you suppress it. I'm not going to say you take it away, you suppress it. So when sometimes they'll say, well, in the U.S., we're not doing some of the things that the other countries are doing as far as technology or, innovation, etc. Well, if you're continuously suppressing the genius, how can you expect to have that type of innovative thought, and once again, and not finding other ways to engage? So yes, exercise, looking at homeopathic methods, etc., different things to take that innovative gift and once again apply it in different arenas. One of the things also that you could do is, if they want to do, let's say they're audio people and they want to wrestle, do an interview with them. Like, so you're going to wrestle today. Tell me a little bit about wrestling. Tell me a little bit about the technique that you're going to use today that you didn't use in the past. And, and around how long do you think it's going to take to win or get the knockout? Like, really make it something that you start to expound upon so that it's more than just a physical entity.
Yes, I love that. I really do. Thank you. So the Miller method, I'm going to write it down.
Miller method is called and everything. Hey, Kelly, just really quickly, if you could just share a little bit about your own experience, because like I said, you've got those two teenage kids and everything, and Myrna isn't as familiar with you as I am, and all along those lines, and you've also got the daughter that is in college, if I remember correctly, and all along those lines. But if you can just share a little bit about your own experience and what you've gone through, because I do know that you've had some experience, some that our audience knows, but Myrna does not know as much. So there is a little bit of synergy, I think, between the works that y'all are doing. So I just wanted you to share a little bit about your own background.
So that eclectic experience those examples I just gave you, those were not Miller method. Those are my methods.
Okay.
So Miller method, actually, it's an elevated square that teaches you how to incorporate language and stuff while they're doing things on the actual square. So it's just something to think about. But what I was going to say is my middle son, when he was younger, he had audio processing delay, right? And so that means that if you said hello, it might take him 5 seconds to decipher between the airplane, the air conditioner, the person across the street, the water running, and your voice. So after those, so you have to tell him, give him 5 seconds, and then he'll respond. So, that doesn't necessarily work in a classroom and everyday communication. So what we started to do was my mom and I decided we were going to do the sing-alongs, which were repetitive videos, which have the words at the bottom. And we would gradually turn the volume down on the sing-alongs. So what happened is my son was actually reading the songs instead of reading and singing with it instead of actually hearing it. So when he got to first grade and he did the reading comprehension test, he did the Peabody Adaptive Reading Comprehensive Test, he scored 9th grade level. Because he liked the songs, he saw the characters moving. So now he's associating with, like, if you say lift up, he's seeing it, he's hearing it, he's reading it. So now he has a better understanding of up.
Wow.
Translation later on in life, when I would say something, I would have to use a magnadoodle. So one day we were going, and I said, Jay, go get your shirt. And I said, go get your shirt before we leave. So he went to the door and stood at the door. So my ex-husband and I are like, okay, he's ready to go. And I said, no. I said, Jay, what did mommy say? And so I gave him his magnadoodle, and he wrote it down, and he wrote CHURCH. So he's at the door thinking that we're going to church, not go get your shirt. So he heard go, and he heard church. Remember, auditory processing delay.
Yeah.
So the response that he would give in a classroom may not be the same as somebody else in a classroom because he's hearing things differently. So the thing that helps him to communicate more clearly is to write it down so that you understand exactly what he's thinking and you can handle that appropriately. The other thing I would say is my daughter, she began college at age 14. And so what happened is when she was younger, she was like, energetic, and they're like, oh, well, we need to put her on, ADHD and all this other kind of stuff. And I was like, no, she's just energetic. And so I said, Pumpkin, I just need you, what do you want to do? Basketball, football? I mean, not football, basketball, what was it? Basketball, track, and stuff. We did something else. I can't remember what it was. And so ballet, basketball, ballet, and track. And so the thing that stuck was track. And we tried drums, everything. So I said, okay, Blake, I said, I just need you to run. I just want you to go run. So she ran. And it was like 8th graders running. There was nobody her age running. And she was like, I don't know, 7, right? She came in 2nd place in the 8th grade race.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Then we went so she was like number 32 in the nation. I mean, like number 32 in her race, like in the state or something. Like it was I don't remember. I don't remember what the number was. So I don't want to exaggerate. So she was some number, but the bottom line is they had like the conference meet, etc. And so Blake went to the conference meet, and this story is on embracing the innovation, embracing the genius, embracing the energy. Okay. So now we go to the conference meet, and I meet a gentleman who's a coach on another team. And he's like, wow, your daughter's really good. Is she going to California? And my daughter looked at me. She looked at my ex-husband. She said, I'm going to California. I said, yes, you are, Pumpkin. You're going to California, right? So we go to the track meet, to his track meet, because her track team ended. So we go to his track team, and she starts to practice. And I said, well, you're probably going to come in fourth, but you need to come in third in order to advance to the regionals, right? Mm-hmm. So my daughter's like, okay, well, she said, if I come in fourth, will I go to California? He said, no. He said, you got to come in third. She looked at me and said, Mommy, I'm going to come third in 2 races. I said, okay, Pumpkin, you got it. And keep in mind, her coach is a genius. Like, he studies numbers, figures, everything. He knew that there was no way that she could do better than fourth, right? Fourth, maybe fifth. So Blake came in third in both races, the 800 and the mile. So we go to Virginia, and she's running. Now, keep in mind, this is a child that they're saying her energy is too much. So, maybe we need to look at alternative things, etc. So we go to Virginia, and they said to my daughter, the coach said, now, Blake, I'm glad you got it here, but, if you don't come in third in the 800, you're not going to California. You got to come in third. So she ran the 800. She came in fourth, but she still had the mile left to go, or the 1500. And she looked at me. She said, Mommy, I'm still going to California. I said, yes, you are, Pumpkin. Let's go to California. She said, all I have to do is come in third. I said, all you got to do is come in third. I said, put yourself in third and don't let anybody get in front of you. She came in third. Wow. So now it's California, right? And so my daughter's thinking first through third will get you the raise. We'll get you, you have to do first through third to get a medal. So we walk up to the podium, and she looks at the podium, and she said, why is there like 8 spaces on the podium? And her coach said to her, he said, because Blake, you don't need to come in first through third. You need to come in first through 8. And she looked at me and she said, Mommy, I'm going to get a medal. I said, yes, you are, Pumpkin. You're going to get a medal. Her coach said, Blake, you are in last place. There are 32 girls running, and you're like 31 or 32 in time. And so she looked at me and she said, Mommy, if I get a medal, can we go get Starbucks coffee? I said, you can go get some Starbucks coffee.
Oh my gosh. So
she got into the race, and 16 through 32 or 17 to 32 were like the persons with slower time. So she should have been in that heat. And she didn't make the heat. And I looked, and she looked at me, and she's like, so that meant she was going to get in the first heat with the fastest runners.
Yeah.
So she got in the first heat, placed herself in 8th. Somebody passed her. The 9th person passed her. So she was now in 9th. And so I can't remember what part of the race it was, but I would say within like 2, maybe 3 seconds, Blake got back in 8th and medaled in 8th place. So she's a National Junior Olympics medalist. And the point is, what they wanted to do was try and curb her energy with, medication or something like that. And I said, no, we're going to go full force with it. So yeah, she came in 8th in the nation in the mile. She began college at age 14. Age 14, she took the test. She was working out of a college science book in her 5th grade, but she took the test in 8th grade for the community college. She scored the highest level in English and the second highest level in math. And the community college is like, look, she really needs to look at a 4-year university. So she started at UNC Chapel Hill at age 14. Wow. So I say all that to say that if your child has energy, find a way to make it constructive, productive, etc. So a teacher may not be able to handle their energy in the class, but a teacher may, because remember, we're talking about receptive and expressive language. So a teacher might like the auditory component. So when you show the teacher that your son did an interview and he's speaking coherently, that refutes some of the stuff about his, challenges with cognition and processing things. Yeah. And he's able to explain the way he moves when he tackles someone. I do first, second, third, fourth, fifth. That shows sequencing and organizing thought process. You know what I'm saying? So, so basically, So I encourage parents. I encourage individuals. I work a lot with young adults. When I say young adults, I mean like college students and older. I encourage them to find multiple ways of communicating whatever they need to communicate, because the listener just may not communicate the same way you do. So the listener may not be energetic. The listener may be on ADHD, or or maybe on some type of medication, or may have taken that when they were growing up. So they may be as receptive to it. But find a way, and if you look and explore different things, you'll find a way to connect with more people, and you'll be agile. You'll be agile in the process. You'll be able to change on the dime.
Yes.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Thank you so much for sharing your story and your kids. They sound amazing. I love that.
Yeah. The mom moment and everything. Along those same lines, Kelly, if you just, because I was trying to explain it, and like I said, you're the one that has that knowledge and all of that space, what a panda and pan is, because I was trying to ask Myrna if she knew anything about it, and she wasn't as familiar with it. So if you can just share a little bit about what that is and how that plays into the conversation that we're having.
So basically, when you look at the DSM-5, when you look at the diagnosis, ADHD, autism, schizophrenia, bipolar, all those different things, if you look at them on a MRI scan, you'll notice neuroinflammation. And so previously, they always said it was a chemical imbalance. Well, bottom line is there's tons of neurotransmitters. So how can you isolate one neurotransmitter? And by the time that medicine gets to the actual neurotransmitter, it's got to be more than that. Mm-hmm. So there's neuroinflammation. And when there's neuroinflammation, that means there's a challenge to the immune system. Mm-hmm. So remember when they were talking about, like, if you can't have the COVID vaccine, if you have a challenge to your immune system, if you have an immune deficiency,
yes,
that basically meant that your body could not ward off whatever the virus was. Mm-hmm. So with PANDAS, basically what it does is it looks at individuals and says, hey, look, if a person is having an extreme adverse situation, meaning like, violence, rage, screaming, hyperactivity, it begins with an A. I can't remember the word, but basically when they can't sit down, if a person is having those extreme measures, then there probably is a neurological and an immunology component. So if you address those two, then you will address the person's challenges long term. So one of the things with concussions is, one of the first things they do with concussions is give kids antibiotics, because a concussion actually impacts your immune system. So with PANDAS, right, basically it's a pediatric adverse behavior based on it's neuropsychotic, pediatric acute neuropsychotic diagnosis, something strep throat. I can't remember exactly what it is, but basically what it's stating is that a child has adverse behaviors because of a neurological condition, which is treatable, curable, versus saying a child has a psychiatric condition, which is only manageable, and only 4 to 13% of individuals with autism lose that diagnosis. Okay. Wow. So PANDAS is associated with strep, and like when you have an onset of strep, it gets worse. The challenge is with strep, a lot of times we don't see it, and sometimes it can be asymptomatic. So once again, that's where you have to do the blood work, and there's physical. You can Google it. I'm not going to go into it, but there's physical impressions of strep, and you can look into where it is presented. Okay. PANDAS is the same exact thing, but it has nothing to do with strep. So it's the same exact adverse social behavior, which is connected to a neurological challenge, or a physical neurological challenge, inflammation, and the immune system, which can be cured and treated. Okay. Unless it can lead to conditions like celiac, lupus, kidney failure, a lot of other long-term chronic conditions. Once again.
Wow. That makes sense, though. The inflammation and the affecting the immune system.
People say you can't have wheat, you can't have dairy, so you don't want to eat those foods that cause inflammation, because that will also cause, greater neuroinflammation. That will cause a greater damaging or impairment in your immune system, and also adverse social behavior. So aggression. Yeah. So imagine. Give me an example. Imagine someone with PANDAS, and they have challenges with audio processing. They have challenges with touch. It's called allodynia, sensitivity to touch. Hearing, misophonia. Like once again, remember I told you all those sounds are the same,
Mm-hmm.
and they can be irritating, and it can actually cause a violent rage. These things, touch can cause a rage, etc. So imagine, and 40 to 49% of them flee. So like if I'm talking to you, they just run across highways, like that kind of stuff. So
Wow.
imagine a policeman stopping someone with pandas. So when you
Yeah.
see a policeman, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to stop and listen.
Yeah.
But
But
someone with
they won't.
what will they do?
They'll
They will
run.
attack. They will attack with rage, or they will run off. So that's why you see, an elevation in like physical violence, suicide, aggression, shootings and stuff like that, because sometimes there's a neurological impairment that was never addressed.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's extreme rage. There's if you look at my website, I'll have a video on there, but you can see like I'll just be sitting here talking to you, and then all of a sudden, just extreme rage. Can I give one story, Mark?
Yes, please.
Do you mind one story?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was asking you guys. So I'll give you an example. So my younger son Noah has pandas, and sometimes we would be in the car driving, and he would take off all his clothes because remember sensitivity to touch,
Mm-hmm.
and then he would reach out and grab my hair while I'm driving, like grab it, like pulling my head back in the car.
No.
So what I would do is I would swerve on the road, pull over, put the car in park, pull over, open the door. My daughter and son would get out, and then I would have to peel his fingers off my hair one by one, and then I would close the door. I would let him calm down, and like after 5 minutes, you can tell he's calm, and it's time to get back in the car. And you can tell he's calm because he starts to put his clothes back on, and it's time to go.
Wow.
So if you don't know what that is, you're going to think that's a psychiatric condition that needs to be caged, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But kids who've done that, and there's many stories you can look, like I said, at my website, kids who've been through that, parents who have addressed it as a neurological condition. If you catch it early, it could be a $5 antibiotic. Who have addressed it as a neurological condition. Those kids are now graduating from college. All my friends in New Jersey who had kids with panda symptoms, etc., they are either like, they're all professionals, like whether it be in a trade or whether they have graduated from college, they're all professionals. And the sad part is my mission, my advocacy, my purpose is to really get the word out that there's more options out there to actually cure kids completely. I mean, you think about it, you've got kids. When I taught in Philadelphia, I was at a church, and there was a kid who was sitting there, and all of a sudden just started throwing tables and chairs across the classroom. I mean, kids were sitting there right there.
Yeah.
But that's what Candace looks like. Everything's fine, and then there's all of a sudden rage because your body is fighting the infection. It could be COVID, it could be strep, it could be chickenpox, it could be, any one of these things. Your body is fighting it, and your central nervous system gets tired. And once your central nervous system gets tired of fighting, that's when that rage comes out, or that's when that flee comes out.
Wow. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah.
But it makes total sense.
Yeah. So my website, do you mind if I give my website?
Yeah, what is your website?
It's forward, FORWARD,
Okay.
life, LIFE, coach, COACH,
Okay.
.com.
.com. Forwardlifecoach.com.
Right.
Okay. I got it. I'm going to check it out.
So yeah, we're having a little bit of technical problems, so I got that solved and all along those lines. But definitely, I was just wondering, because definitely Kelly knows that one of the things that you had your own health issues and everything, but I don't know what I would have gone through, and that's what I was telling Myrna earlier. If I had the diagnosis at such a young age of a person in my family having cancer, so I was just wondering if you ever had that experience and what your reaction would be, because you've got those 3 kids of yours and everything. But that's the first reason that Myrna got involved in the Enneagram level and everything, was because of that early diagnosis and wanted to understand herself better. So as a mother, I was just wondering what your reaction would have been, or if you ever had that kind of situation where you had to one of your children have a life threatening kind of situation. Because, like I said, her son, the youngest one, if I remember, was diagnosed with cancer and actually had his kidney removed. So he's only operating with one kidney and all along those lines. But that is what she has to deal with on a regular basis. So I didn't know whether you would, what your thoughts were as a mother and all along those lines. Because definitely I can only imagine what I would think if I was to be a father and have to go through that. But I'd love to hear your thoughts as one that is a mother of three.
Well, as I mentioned before, my sons have had challenges. My daughter, with school, etc. I mean, when she was performing at a college level in fifth grade, they thought that she was plagiarizing. So, she had the meeting with the principal, and the principal, she outsmarted the principal. They were like, she really does know her work. So they didn't even tell me. My daughter's like, Ma, they called me into the office for something like plagiarizing. And me, Mama Bear, I was pissed. I was ready. I was ready to get some Vaseline and work out. And so when I talked to the teacher, she said, "Well, yeah, we didn't call you because we wanted to make sure everything was okay, etc. But she really knows her stuff, and so instead of working out of the fifth grade book, we're going to have her work out of my college book." So my thing was more or less helping individuals understand just how smart my kids are. Like I said, my son Jay, when I homeschooled him, when he was in seventh grade, we had a homebound instructor come to the house, and the homebound instructor said, I never had a kid teach me biology and calculus. She said, he's smarter than the 12th graders that I work with. So, it was a matter of, once again, making sure that people understood my kids' academic prowess. But if you're not in an environment where people are used to it, then it becomes harder and harder. So we went to in other areas to try and get some of that stuff done. But on a personal note, I'm a survivor of a cerebral aneurysm. And so what happened is 6 Fridays in a row, they kept telling me that it was nothing, And then the 6th Friday, the doctor just basically, I heard him say he was waiting for it to rupture. And then I went home and I did some work, and I saw my mom, and my mom just looked like I was about to die. Like she was,
gosh.
Something wasn't right. I went home and did some research. I went to found another doctor, and the doctor, I went there, and immediately he, performed surgery. Immediately when I got there, he said, "You can't go." I said, "Wait a minute, I can't go." I said, "I'm hungry. We just drove from North Carolina to I got my kids. I got this." I said, "My husband's waiting in the car." They're like, "Ma'am, you can't go." I said, "But wait, I just want to run up the street." They're like, "Ma'am, you're not going." And so he walked out the door. He said her aneurysm could rupture at any moment. So it had gone from, at the beginning of 6 weeks, at the beginning of the 6 weeks, it was a 4. And then at the end of the 6 weeks, it was like a 10 ready to rupture. So it was already leaking. It was leaking. It just didn't do the big rupture.
Wow.
Yeah. So basically what I found was, you can communicate clearly everything that you need to communicate, but if your audience isn't ready for it, it doesn't make a difference. Yeah. And I thank God for the doctor that I had in North Carolina. He is my hero. If I could see him today, I would hug him and I'd buy him 3 Christmas presents. What he said, listen to what he said today. Mm-hmm. He said, "I honestly don't know how to handle your case. Let me recommend some doctors to you." Can you imagine how humbling that is for somebody to say, "I don't know," versus to fake it until you make it?
Yeah.
So if he weren't humble enough to tell me, "I don't know," I could be dead right now.
Yeah.
So once again, my thing has been helping people advocate for themselves, creating awareness, etc. Because it wasn't so much that I wasn't communicating the stuff that needed to be done. It's just that my audience wasn't ready for it. Because when I went to Philadelphia, they were like, "Let's go, surgery."
Wow.
Hey, Myrna, just that actually had me to think of something. Do you, since you're into the enneagrams and everything, do you ever, when you are dealing with your folks that are in the service lanes that you have to deal with, whether that is the teachers or whether that is the doctors, do you ever try to get a further understanding of their personality types, and does that help you by understanding their personality types? I was wondering, do you try to do that on a regular basis, whether that that's given them to take the test with you, or whether it's just trying to understand the characteristics and understand who you're dealing with?
Yeah. I haven't had any doctors or teachers. I haven't asked them to take the test. But I do bring it up in conversation naturally all the time. I just feel like me being aware of the Enneagram and different personality types, that I know that everyone is not going to think like me and they're not going to be like me. And so even sometimes my husband comes home home from work, and he's like, I don't understand why this person did that. And I said, they're not like you, like you're a type 1, you want everything perfect. You're the first one at work every morning. Like you even if you're sick, you're still going to go to work. Like not everyone is like that. And so just realizing that can help you deal with people better. I feel like,
That
yeah.
makes a lot of sense. Hey,
Yeah.
Kelly, by the way, you missed that part, but her husband is actually in the Air Force, and that is part of the reason that they actually live in Topeka, Kansas. So Myrna is actually there in Kansas. We were actually talking about how he is a basketball fan. She not as much, but he does know basketball and knows even some of that connections to Roy and UNC and all along those lines. But definitely, it's part of that background is that she's over there in, as I was teasing her about earlier, Tornado Alley. But she said she hasn't seen one in 9 years, so she's avoided it for 9 years and all along those lines.
Yep, we're still here. Yeah.
So you should give no, that's one of the things I do. I coach people not to say you should also, you ought to. But it would be interesting for Mark to take the test, don't you think?
Yes.
Yes,
I would love to see that.
For you work with Mark.
Yeah,
on
if
the
you send me a
test,
copy of the test, I would gladly.
then you can talk about your rating, your number.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you send me a copy of it, I'll gladly take the test. I'd be open to that and all along those lines. Like I said, I have a
Okay.
funny feeling that it'll probably be because I know some of my personalities and I know some of the things that I do. So I know that I sometimes am fall in that what people call people pleaser category and all along those lines. So I imagine that I will probably be on one of the higher ends, whether that's a 9 or 8 or something that's in that aspect. But I don't know that for a fact. But I know I'm definitely not a perfectionist, so I know
Yeah.
which one I can totally eliminate off the top of the bat.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I've been called a people pleaser, pushover my whole life. Like, oh, she's such a nice girl. And yeah, now I know not all confrontation is bad.
Right.
There are hard conversations that we have to have. And especially as a mom, like, yeah, we're going to have this hard conversation. And I've grown in that aspect. So, yeah.
Do you have to tell people that you're a people pleaser?
Sorry,
Besides show. Besides today on Mark's show, do you ever tell people that you're a people pleaser?
I used to, not anymore. Yeah.
Well, how easy do you find? Because I know one of the things that people pleasers get in trouble with is that we're not always great at saying a very simple word. It's called no, and all along those lines. So I was wondering if that was a issue with you both as a youngster and even as a young adult, because I do know that it's only 2 letters, but even I sometimes have a hard time saying no, even though it can cause conflicts if you don't meet the deadlines and all along those lines. But I'm just wondering, how hard is it for you to use those 2 very powerful letters?
Oh, yeah. It used to be really hard. So I would say yes to about like everything. And then I really didn't want to do it. And I would be like, why did I say yes? So now, like I talked to my husband about it. And I'm like, someone asked me to go to this. And I'm like, and he supports me. He's like, if you don't feel like doing it, just say no. And I'm like, you're right. I'm just going to say no. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of have to talk it through with him, but it's gotten better. I don't say yes to everything anymore.
Yeah, it's good that you don't say yes to everything. Just out of curiosity, because one of the things that we're going to wrap up shortly that I talk about often on these shows and everything, how hard have you found it in your personality to be dealing with the self-critic, because that's what I oftentimes have a issue with. Because whether it is on the, and I'm 61 and still in that dating lane, or whether it's in the dating lane, or whether it's on jobs, or whether it's a number of other things, I will have those inner conversations with myself way too often. And by the time I finally get up the nerve to approach whatever the situation is, the situation has left the door, left the building, as the saying goes, and all along those lines. But how do you deal with that? Because I know that that's something I oftentimes talk about, is this notion of the self-critic and those inner conversations. Because I know that even in my jobs, there have been art administrative jobs that I've literally gone like, I could do that job. And then, you have that conversation back and forth. And by the time you actually go to the boss, it's like, I'm interested in the job. They're like, well, the job's already been gone.
Yeah.
Taken.
Long time ago. You took too long.
Yeah.
I definitely deal with perfectionism, just like the analysis paralysis. Like, I want to do this, but I'm going to it's got to be perfect before I put it out, or before, So last few years, I've gotten better with that. Like, if it's not perfect, it's fine. Like, good is better than nothing. And I am very critical towards myself, especially as a mom. I'm always thinking, like, what could have I said to help uplift them more? I could have made a better meal, or I could have been nicer or more patient. I'm always thinking that kind of stuff. But I have this calendar book that it gives you like mindfulness quotes and stuff. And one of them that I read all the time is, at the end of the day, is that I did the best that I could. And I tell myself that at night. And I'm like, you know what? I did the best that I could with my kids, and I love them, and I know they know that I love them. So tomorrow I'm just going to try to do better. And that's helped me kind of put things in perspective. Like, we can't be perfect. We're not perfect,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Hey, Kelly, just really quickly, and like I said, we'll wrap up very shortly and everything. What, as a older mother, what advice would you give to Myrna, the younger mother, and all along those lines? Because you've definitely gone through the motherhood experience, and all along those lines, you've got those 3 wonderful kids. You've kind of given some great stories, but what advice would you give to Myrna as she goes through the furthering of motherhood and seeing these young people? Because like you said, she's got a 5 and 8-year-old, so they still got to get to the teenage years and some of those other years that they are heading toward, and all in that space. So what advice would you give her?
2 things. One, as a life coach, we always say you did the best you could with the knowledge you had at that time, right? So based on the knowledge, based on the resources, based on the environment, you did the best that you could at that time. So don't ever look back and say, I should have, I could have, because you can't change it.
Yeah.
Right? It's gone. You can't change it. And then number 2, what I was going to say is, I still say yes to a lot of things, but when I say yes, I give an extended time frame. So if I think I can do it in 3 days, I'll say I can do it in 5 or 6. And the reason why I'll say 5 or 6 is because I never know what else is going to come. Me saying yes to other people, I never know what else is going to come in the way. So I will give an extended date to manage their expectations. Now, if I over deliver, if I give it to them sooner, then all to the good. Thank you. I wasn't even expecting it yet, but I always do that. And then the other thing that I was going to say is, there's a quote by Maya Angelou, and I can't remember the exact words of it, but it's called a day away, like taking a day off. So, for instance, while you have all the minutia going on around you, sometimes you just need to be like, shop is closed. Shop is closed, and we're going to go to the park. Shop is closed, and we're going to whatever. And when that shop, when I say the shop is closed in a day away, it's not planned. It's not planned. It's like, you know what? I'm at 85 or I'm at 90%. And if I don't stop now, I'm going to get to 100% exhaustion. So shop is closed.
Yeah.
And when you do that, shop is closed, and you come back the next day, man, your thoughts are there. Your resources are there. So many things are back in place because you were overexerting yourself and you were working on E instead of working in a productive mode. I mean, you think about it, when you drive your car on E, or you do something else on E, you're exhausting it versus getting
Yeah.
full potential out of it. So that's the only thing
Yes.
I would say.
I like that. I'm gonna do that this afternoon. Shopping clothes. We're going to the park.
Along those lines, Myrna, what is it your escape place? Because we all have an escape place. I have not been on one of my walks because there's a area not that far from the Duke's campus that actually has got a series of like ponds, and there are birds and other things that are there. And that was used to be my walk place, as well as a place here called Duke Gardens. And I need to get to both of those because just being in touch with nature is sometimes my escape, and I have not done that as much as I probably should. So I might have to do that, if not later today, definitely on Friday, because it's way overdue. But what is your escape place there in Kansas where you just know that you're going to go to get away from the pressures of motherhood, the pressure of being a wife, the pressures of life in general? So what is your escape place?
Yes. Well, I'm an avid reader. I'm always reading something. And so I will just go to Barnes and Nobles and walk around, pick some books that I like, get some coffee, and I will sit there for hours and read and just people watch. And like my husband all the time is like, you have the whole afternoon off. You're going to Barnes and Nobles. And I'm like, yes, it's the best for me. Like I feel so refreshed when I'm done. So that's what I love.
Kelly, where's your escape place? We all have an escape place. I mentioned that walk that I need to get to, and she just said she goes to Barnes and Nobles, and I have some friends that do that as well. But where is your escape place?
So now that my top is working to my car again, it's my car. So I have a convertible. I always wanted a convertible, a 2-seater. And so when life throws me whatever, I can get in my car and drive to, I live in Raleigh, so I can drive to Charlotte, or sometimes I'll drive to DC. And my daughter lives in DC, and just spend time there. And during that ride, it just feels like layers are just popping off, like, just going away, going away, going away, going away.
Yeah.
But yeah, so mine has always been to ride. Growing up, my dad and I used to go to Manhattan every weekend. So I'm used to an eclectic environment, used to seeing different people, different thoughts, different clothes, different countries, in one place, hearing multiple languages and all that other kind of stuff. So when you're driving, you get to see so many different things. You know what I mean? And I guess, maybe I should ride a bike, but the same thing. It's cheaper, right? Less gas. It's cheaper. No hotel.
Yeah, it would be a whole lot less gas with that and everything. I'm just glad you got the convertible fixed because your car's a little bit of a tight fit. So now I don't have to worry about it as much and all along those lines. So that is a good thing and all in that space. But definitely, just out of curiosity, you mentioned earlier in the beginning your own background, Myrna, but how much do you stay in touch with? Because like I said, the Cultural Arts Center is actually somewhat named after the country that you're from, because I work at the Haiti Heritage Center, but it is there because there was some Haitian connections to the historical Black Wall Street and all along those lines. So that's part of the reason of the name and all along those lines. And there's actually a Veve symbol that is on the top of the steeple and all along those lines. But I was just wondering, how much are you in touch with your own heritage in that sense? Because I know that a lot of the Haitian community has been part of the immigration community conversations, and I sometimes feel that sometimes they get the wrong end of the deal for a couple of reasons. One, it was the first independent nation, and all along those lines, a lot of people know the story of Toussaint Louverture and being the first free nation and all in that space. And definitely, I sometimes think that some of the more European immigrants get a quicker pass into coming to the U.S. than some of our Haitian immigrants and all along those lines. But I just wanted your thoughts, and if you deal with that in your own life as well, or if you even pay attention to what goes on in your native country.
Yeah. I don't really like watch the news or anything. Like my dad, he's always watching Haitian news, and he knows what's going on over there. I've never been. I think one day I'd probably do a cruise to go there. But I know Creole. I know the language. And like my parents will tell me things here and there, but Other than that, I don't really know much. I have been teaching my kids a little bit of Creole words because it's so similar to French. So it's
Right.
kind of like they're learning French too. Um, but yeah, I like to tell people like I feel like I'm very grateful and proud to be Haitian. So I do tell people that I am. Um, but yeah, that's the extent to it of it. I know that it's probably not the safest place to travel to right now. So maybe one day I'll visit, you know. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Is there and like I said, we're here to wrap up, and the discussion that I get everybody that's on this show is a chance for them to share their ways that they can be reached and their ways of getting the space that they're in. So in your case, it would be the coach and lane and all along those lines. And I get all my guests to give a message of positivity and hope and all in that space. That's something I do on just about every show and all along the kind of way and everything. But before getting to those two questions, is there a Pacific Creole dish or something that you are a big fan of since you have that Creole background? And I am definitely a fan of both Creole and Cajun food, but I was wondering if there is a Pacific dish that you are a fan of and that it is your specialty.
Oh yeah. My favorite food growing up. And if my mom comes and visits or if I go back to Georgia, she makes me boiled plantains. So not the sweet ones, so the green ones. So she'll boil those and she'll make I think it's red snapper fish. So she'll cook that, she'll stir fry it with onions and she'll make like a sauce. And I eat that with the boiled plantains. That is my go-to. And like whenever I eat that, that feels like home, that feels like comfort. So that's definitely my favorite food.
Yeah. Kelly, I was asking if she had any specific Creole favorite food. So I don't know if you've got a Creole dish that you are a fan of, being a Philadelphian and all along those lines. But is there any Creole or Haitian food that you are a fan of?
That crawfish, oh my goodness. When I went to New Orleans, they were trying to tell me how good it was. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. And my ex-husband got alligator. I got crawfish. I was a huge fan. I came back to New Jersey. I couldn't find it anywhere. I couldn't find it anywhere. I don't know how they seasoned it. I wish I knew if it was just butter or whatever. I can't remember, but it was phenomenal.
That sounds good.
Are you from New Orleans?
No, my parents are Haitian. They're from Haiti.
Okay. So, but do the crawfish in Haiti as well?
I don't think I've ever eaten crawfish.
Okay.
Yeah, but my mom likes to make red snapper, codfish. I think that those are the two fishes she likes to make.
Oh, I heard Creole. My daughter's godmother is Haitian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Is there Labradee?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So she's Haitian. Actually, her father was a diplomat, Lamar.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I've heard that name.
So her mother used to make like Haitian dishes for us and stuff like that, but I don't remember a lot of it.
Yeah.
Beans and rice is always my favorite. You make
beans and rice. Yes, I was trying to be fancy with it, but there's always going to be beans and rice at a Haitian's house.
Yeah, definitely. No matter whether you're in Georgia where you were raised at or the other parts of the world. Because like you said, which college did you go to? Because you said you're from Georgia and the husband was from Alabama. So where did y'all actually meet before coming to Topeka?
Yeah, we met in Kennesaw State University in Georgia. So I was a business management major and he was a finance major.
So, all right. So similar kind of field and everything. So he always knew he was going to go into the military
he was already in the military. So he was finishing college and he wanted to get into finance because he's really good at numbers and things like that. So he graduated and then afterwards he decided to go into becoming a pilot.
Oh, well, where are we flying to? I'm ready. I'm ready. Let me run back to the house and get my suitcase. I'm ready. Are you ready? We're going on a plane ride.
You guys, he just got accepted because he was applying to become a pilot with Delta. So he's gonna be a Delta pilot.
When will he be?
He's got to train. So 3 years. 3 years.
Hey,
Yeah,
Mark,
he's gonna
if
finish
we start
military.
packing now, we'll have our bags ready in 3 years.
In 3 years, we'll be ready to go on the Delta flight with
Yes,
with the pilot. Mr. Scales will be ready to take us on that flight. Sounds like a plan.
I want to go to Italy and Greece. Are you guys with me?
We are ready. We're ready, and
we're totally ready.
Enneagrams.
Yes.
We can promote enneagrams while you're there. We can help you out.
Yeah.
So that's your wish list of places to go is Italy and Greece. So what is that? Why is that on the wish list?
I just love like every movie that I watch, like the authentic Italian city, the Greece with the white houses on the hillside.
And the blue.
I just want to try their food and just be around that.
I interviewed a couple of people who played professional basketball in Greece.
Oh yeah.
And they were just talking about how phenomenal it was. I think they said that at some place they had to bring their food. I can't remember what it was, but I know what it was. I think he said they didn't have hot sauce. That's what it was. They didn't have they didn't have hot sauce or Worcestershire sauce or something. But anyway, Jeff McInnes, the basketball player, the professional basketball player.
Right.
Yeah.
He was just saying Greece was absolutely beautiful. And I've heard Italy is great with the gold and the leather.
Oh, sounds so nice.
I could definitely go there and everything. There are a couple of places that are on my wish list as well. I know that a friend of mine actually was taking his students because he is a professor to Belize. So the way he talks about Belize and Costa Rica, though, are both on my list. And then I've got friends of mine, actually the son and the daughter, but mostly the son, were involved in our Black August in the Park event here, meaning let's see, it's Maurice is the father, but Maurice, the father, went back to Kenya. So Kenya has been on my list of places to go visit as well.
Wow.
I definitely love to go to Kenya, and there are a number of other places that are on my wish list because my dad and mom both have been to a couple of the Asian countries, including China and a couple of other ones. But definitely, I know that some of the African nations like Kenya, I think parts of Israel, and definitely I've heard good things about Morocco as well. So there are tons of them that are on my wish list. I'm sure you've got a bunch on your wish list as well, Kelly.
Look, I'm waiting for 3 years. We're going to Italy.
Yes.
We're going to Italy and Greece. He's got to get that. He's got to get that flight and all along those lines.
Yeah.
Cool. Sounds like a plan. Myrna, this has been a great conversation. I do hope that you will come back, and I will definitely try to take that Enneagram test. But like I said, if you can tell folks how you can be reached, I'm also going to have Kelly say the same thing, even though she's been on the show a couple of times. But folks are seeing it at different times and all along those lines. And like I said, for everybody, I love to have their message of peace and hope. So I'm going to let you two ladies give that as well. So since you're the well, I'll start with you, Kelly, first. So, and then I'll go up to Myrna to close out. So, definitely, if you tell folks how you can be reaching any message of peace and hope that you've got, and then I'll turn it over to Myrna for the closeout before running a couple of these PSAs.
Okay. So,
Kelly,
my website once again is forward FORWARD life LIFE coach COACH.com. My email address is Kelly KELLYE Jones JONES @gmail.com. The Kelly Jones. And my message of love, peace, and hope is that we are all amazing. We're all uniquely made. We all have unique gifts, and in the right setting, we are phenomenal. So just make sure you kind of like the ugly duckling had to find his right setting. Make sure you do what you need to do to find your right setting.
I love that and everything. Myrna, if you can tell folks how you can be reached with the Enneagram coaching, as well as any message of positivity and hope that you want to share with our global audience.
Okay. You can reach me at my website. It's 9 wing, WING 1.com. That's my type. I'm a 9 wing 1. So I have some blogs on there, and I am going to be releasing some different books. One, Enneagram for Moms, and another one will be a self-care guide for each Enneagram type. I am just so grateful that I was able to be on your show, Mark. And thank you for letting me share my story. And Kelly, it was really awesome getting to meet you and hear a little bit about you too. My message of hope and peace for you all is that you learn who you are so that you can build the confidence to live the life that you've always wanted to live. I feel like self-awareness is like the best thing that you can do for yourself and your family. So even if it's just reading some books or looking at blog posts online, talking to a coach, just every day try to do something to get closer to understanding you so that you can understand other people better.
Yeah, and along those same lines, just really quickly, if you need some tips and some advice in getting those books done, as you just heard her say, Kelly is an author, so maybe she can help you with that whole author journey and all along those lines, because she's written 2 books and is now currently working, because I'm helping her put it together on the Audible of both of those books, but definitely the first one is what we're working on now, which is the 4th one that she mentioned earlier. So definitely she can probably give you some advice on. It sounds like you've got 2 or 3 books in your mind as well. So sounds like that can go on. And I don't think I'm speaking out of school by saying that Kelly will probably help you if you're willing to take the advice and the help as well, because she's definitely learned quite a bit. I think that I'm speaking not out of school, but correct me if I'm wrong, Kelly. If you I think Kelly might be still traveling around. I was just saying that she's getting ready to write those books. So I was saying that you would probably be willing to help her with those books once she's ready to actually get them down on paper and get them out to the public and everything.
Oh yeah, let's go.
Oh, I love your energy. I love it. Thank you.
No problem. And on that note, we're going to go out with another friend that's got a vegan snack thing that they put out. So I'm probably going to torture both of you ladies, because this is vegan cakes and vegan along those lines. And there might be another PSA that comes up, but this is actually based in Raleigh, North Carolina. So y'all are going to get tortured by this vegan food as we get ready to head out the door and all along those lines. But everybody sees this particular PSA and commercial, it's like, all right, I'm hungry now. So y'all will probably be like that as well. And I know that I am every time I see this one also. So let's check out this and get ready to get on out the door.
Hi, my name is Maria Jones, baker and owner of Very Vegan, a premier mobile bakery specializing in putting a plant-based spin on some of your favorite desserts. Inspired by my own personal experience with my journey with healthier eating habits, I was determined to make comparable items with desirable textures and great taste. We're always experimenting with different flavor profiles and expanding our menu. I enjoy my creative license as well as imparting ideas and requests from my customers. It makes for new and exciting items. Some of our customer faves are the specialty cheesecakes such as the banana pudding with homemade vegan vanilla wafers, strawberry crunch, honey bun, fruity pebbles, peach cobbler, and many others. We also offer moist, rich cupcakes, delectable cookies, decadent brownies, and scrumptious pound cake. Discover how amazingly delicious vegan can be. I am available for orders, or you can purchase my items exclusively at the Black Farmers Hub.